Right now, I am 37 years old. In the morning, I co-host a college football podcast on YouTube in which I help cut all the videos for afterward and send to Spotify and things like that. So I do that from about 10 to 1 o'clock, 1:30, and then at 2 o'clock, I switch over and I work at USA Today, and I work at USA Today from 2 to 10 in the evening on Monday, and I do both of those things Monday through Friday. And at USA Today, I am their video programmer, one of their video programmers and video editors. So I scour the site for all news stories that are trending and doing well, and I make sure that they have video. I also, if there's nothing, I help produce a video a lot of times for it, using a variety of different resources that give us access to certain things to make the video. And then also I'm responsible for making sure that we send things to YouTube for our USA Today YouTube channel and to our social networks and things like that. On top of all of that, I have a newborn, so I have to get him in daycare before I start my podcast in the morning, and we pick him up in the evening. I take a break, and then my lunch break, if you call it, is picking him up from daycare in the evening.
Wow. So three jobs, not just two.
Yes, yes. I at least have my wife helping me out a lot with my third job. So yeah.
Well, let's focus on the two jobs that you mentioned. You run a sports college football podcast, which is amazing. And then you are working for USA Today. Feel free to pick either one. Can you kind of give us an idea of how you got there?
Yes. So it's kind of a weird story. I kind of had an idea I wanted to be here, but didn't know for sure. So when I was in high school, I've been a sports nerd my whole life. I mean like nerd, like I know stats and history and things like that, but not really a great athlete. So I realized if I wanted any sort of avenue in sports, I would probably have to write about it. So I started doing that in high school, and then in college, that just carried me to being a journalism major. So I was a journalism major in college. I wanted to write about sports or just write in general. So coming out of college, I took a job as a local news reporter for a newspaper that was starting a TV station to go with it. That was out in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is Western Maryland. And I started working there. That would have been about 2011. And I was a broadcast journalism major, but I had cut my teeth in writing before that, so I had experience in both. And so I from 2011 to 2015, I was a broadcast, I was working for the TV station and writing for the local newspaper during that time in Hagerstown. Around 2014, I decided to take on a second job, which was I kind of had lost my that I'd gone down fully into just regular local news reporting and kind of separated from sports more than I wanted to. So I decided to get back into it in 2014. I took a position with the college football blog, just writing college football, and I stayed with that blog network for I guess 8 years, but I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So I started working for the blog in 2014, and I was at this paper in Hagerstown. In 2016, I applied for my job at USA Today, which I got, and then I left Hagerstown for that. So from 2016 to about 2022, I was doing my blog and working at USA Today. And then in 2022, the person who was launching this podcast, who somebody with the podcast group knew of my work, reached out to me to be a co-host on the show. And so I left my blog to start being a co-host on the podcast, and that's how I got to the point where I'm now a co-host on the podcast and then a video programmer at USA Today. So I use my experience in video with USA Today based on what I was doing in Hagerstown to help start the TV station and help launch the TV station at that time. And that's what took me to USA Today as the video programmer there.
Incredible. It sounds like you have a lot of stepping stones that got you to where you are now. Did I hear someone come off mute to ask a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you for that timeline. That kind of poses the question for me that I'd like to pitch to you. How have you seen how social media has, obviously started back around the early mid 2000s? How has that influenced your career in video?
Funny enough, not as much. I mean, if we count YouTube as social media, it's influenced a lot because I have a pretty decent understanding of algorithms and things like that. And YouTube, I would say, has the best algorithm of any of the of any network that involves algorithms, shall we say. Um, but because of the videos I cut and the things like that are more long form. They're usually 8 to 10 minute clips. It's really YouTube is really the only platform that's best for me now. I have understood, I guess I have understood a good bit with social media with video at USA Today. And the reason being is when I was in Hagerstown and social media was just getting started, we would cut packages like we were cutting for a local television station, and we would put those out. And as we kind of transitioned as social media became more monetizable, as we kind of transitioned to social media, focusing on promoting on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we realized that, funny enough, text on screen on a video does significantly better than, unless it's a very visually appealing video, than generic video to tell a story with a narrator doing a voiceover in the background. So we started doing a lot more text on screen. We realized as people scroll, text on screen almost works like a headline in an old newspaper. You gotta have, if you write something out that grabs your attention immediately, it'll stop them. And that was within a year at USA Today where we dove in and kind of went all in on that. Now we kind of, and it's made things a lot easier now because there's, a video play is money for us. And now we basically realize that we can just, based on our network of assets and pictures, if there's a story that is just not visually appealing, we can create one just writing a script, a text on screen script based to the news, based on what's in the story. And we can just almost create a video that's a slideshow of pictures with it that's in video format, which we never would have done back in the day. So that's been a lot of fun, which, a lot of YouTubers have kind of learned that too, where many YouTubers have learned that they could do a YouTube video like a podcast and then just put, still images over what they're saying, and that's enough for a video, and they still get the same ad revenue. So that's worked a lot better. The B-roll, the background video is just a lot less important than it used to be, unless again it's something visually appealing, like if we get a video of a flying car, then obviously we just want to show the flying car. So that's where it's different.
Okay, thanks a little bit for that background. What is the difference between being a video editor versus being a video programmer?
So the video editor edits the video, determines whether or not it should be text on screen, what scripts it should be, what footage, assets, photos we use in the video, everything you see that's it put together. A video editor puts the video together. The programmer is kind of responsible for making sure it goes to the right places, whether or not that be in a story on the website, which social media platforms it goes to, going to YouTube, and also making sure that the right hashtags are in there, the right headline, and the right chatter is all written to make sure it maximizes SEO potential. The programmer does all of those things. Most most YouTubers you guys would know are both the video editor and the video programmer, unless they're just really, really, really big and they can hire somebody to do some of that for them. But most of them do all of it. Uh, so I do for our podcast, I kind of do almost all of it. I do the editing and the programming. And then at USA Today, I'm more leaning the programmer. I kind of disperse it across the sites, but I do a lot of editing depending on what the need is for the time.
And when you talk about like the dual roles, and it sounds like they go a little bit hand in hand sometimes, what skills are important for video programming, video editing, and then also, do you have any recommendations on what software you use?
I use Premiere to edit all my videos, pretty much from Microsoft or from Adobe. So it's for me, I just use Premiere because it's easiest for me. I wouldn't, I, I do recommend it, but at the same time, I have not much to compare it to. I'm going to be fair on that. I went from Final Avid to Final Cut to Premiere. As far as the different skills with programming, there's a lot more of an understanding of, I guess you could say, you got to be really good at writing headlines and chatter and things like that because you have to understand what's going to fill. You have to have a deep understanding of what's going to grab attention of viewers. You also have to have a decent enough understanding of different social media platforms to understand what type of videos do well here. Should I really waste time putting this video to Facebook or YouTube? And also determining whether or not it should be YouTube Shorts or regular YouTube is a trick. That's the programmer side. The video editor just has to be really good at just traditionally editing video, understand how something would be visually appealing to people watching it in the moment. And that includes the text that's going to be on the screen, whether there is any text on screen, the B-roll that's in it. The editor has to understand how that flows. It's not for the video editor, it's not much different than an editor or producer for a TV station, the way they would think back in the day. It's just, and nowadays there's just different rules for the way you would do it now than you would have done if you were working for a local TV station and there was no internet.
So it's like obviously a lot of technical skills, but how about like the other skills, like your writing from the newspaper? Do you feel like writing skills are a huge plus to have, or any kind of math skills? And what would you recommend that high school students, what skills should they either acquire, or if they have these skills, that cross over to that career path?
Oh yes, writing skills are huge. And I'll say it in this way. Like I told you guys, I started in newspaper writing and then I went to broadcast journalism. How you read a broadcast script is a little bit different, subtly different from how you write for a newspaper, but the principles are exactly the same. So the sense is, once you learn the subtle rules and differences, you can pretty much translate it over. Basically, you want a headline that grabs the attention. You want your lead to be the biggest thing that'll rope people in, and then just kind of the inverted pyramid, they call it. Also, for one of the things we do on you on actually for both sites, I don't do as much long form video with USA Today, but I do for Off the Hook, our podcast, because we have a section where we talk about college football history, and I do these long segments, and I'm sure maybe you guys have seen, you have your own YouTube videos that you watch that are based on that are long form videos that tell stories. Um, the of writing essays that you learn in high school, you can really apply those in many ways to long form videos. And I write a lot of columns too on that side for Off the Hook, which is columns are different from hard news articles, the inverted pyramid. Columns, you kind of structure them in a different way. The way I would write a column is like the way you guys would be taught to write a persuasive essay in high school. Not exactly, not the exact formula, because persuasive essays are a little bit more sophisticated in wording. Columns are a little simpler, but the concept is still the same. And for instance, just to give you guys one argument, if I got three reasons for something to if I'm making a case on something and I got three reasons that my case is valid, I still do the strongest point first, the weakest point second, and the second strongest and the middle one third. That's just something I learned in high school, and it's worked for me really well. And I think it helps my columns read really well, and my video format actually. It helps my videos flow really well if I'm doing a video in which I'm making an argument on behalf of something. They work that way. They work really well.
That is really good, especially, that can be relayed from like a high school English class to now in your career. So thanks for sharing that story with us. What would you say to like keeping up on the trends? Or you mentioned before, like just having to know what's going to like fill, what's going to attract, what's going to get engagement. How do you keep up on those trends?
Well, that's been a weakness of mine. I'll be straight up honest with you guys. The biggest regret of my life is one of the big ones is I didn't identify YouTube as a trend as it was going. And I was somebody who was on YouTube regularly when it started from 2005 to about 2013, and it never even clicked to me that I could do content myself on this network before like people thought about it as a so what I would do is any type of content, if particularly if you're going into something and identifying trends, any way you identify content, any way you consume content that you may not think is common for other people to consume content, it will probably be common one day. And I would say if you want to try to and so get out ahead of that and embrace it in any way you possibly can. If you're consuming something for yourself, there chances are a lot of other people are too and are interested in it, and there's a growth in that market. But you got it. It's put think about it that way. Think about things that you consume, things that you're interested in, and if you wanted to go into content creation or anything like that, you could apply it from the other side pretty quickly, fairly quickly. And I guess the best way I could say that is when I first got into sports writing, this was 2000 when blogs really were dominating the web and message boards, and I would consume my favorite site to read was collegefootballnews.com. I was a middle schooler reading that, and in middle and high school I was reading that, and that was the first type of writing I had ever seen that was very sarcastic and witty and like simple. And I kind of thought, well, I could do that. So when I started first newspaper writing a little bit, one of the ways I did, and it was actually a citywide high school newspaper where I covered high school football of Memphis that started this. I would do the catchy, witty columns. I would be sarcastic, and there was a there was a big for somebody like me. There's a big rush or thrill when you write something that really upsets somebody else, but you know you were accurate. So that's where I kind of land on that. So I guess the thing is, think about the ways you consume content that may not be the most common ways people assume content consume content right now. And it's you could actually get out ahead of that. And at some point, you could really, really benefit from that.
Great
Or
advice. And I also find that when you're telling this story, you're talking a lot about the things that you love or that you really like. So it's important, would you say, to, lean into what you're passionate about or lean into things that you like, and the work will just come naturally.
Yes, but don't reject things you're not into outright. When I was my first internship in writing out of after my first year of college was with the Commercial Appeal, the local Memphis newspaper at the time. I was responsible for the business section. Guys, I hate business. I hate that. I don't like, I hated covering business. It was like I was covering mergers and acquisitions, and I'm like, this isn't my wheelhouse. But I mean, it actually it gave me a deeper understanding of appreciation for the city I grew up in Memphis, and going to the different businesses and places, the things I fell in love with. And it just I did learn a lot just from that month, from those 2 months covering business. So, and I can apply certain things like that to what I do today. I have a weird, just to give you guys a really weird way this goes for those who don't know about college football. There's the whole concept of NIL in college football right now, and NIL payments, and there have been 1,000 proposals about it, about what to do with it and how to fix it and how to put guardrails up. And I've kind of been out ahead of the curve saying that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. And the reason was because when I was those 2 months I worked in covering business for the Commercial Appeal, I learned more than I cared to about the Sherman Antitrust Act and how that applies to so many business laws today. But I kind of learned now, like, you're not going to be able to, that you can't regulate this in college football. The Antitrust Act won't allow it, just flat out won't allow it. And so try to regulate it, it'll get shut down. And it's helped me be pretty much ahead of the curve and right on a lot of those things with my content that I'm creating now.
or
Interesting how things come full circle.
It is. It is.
what time is this class gonna end? Because I also have another class.
Oh, well, this session is being recorded, so you can always come back to the recording. I wanted to ask you a little bit about AI. It's a question that we, always ask our speakers. It's here. People are still navigating through it. And when you talk about getting ahead of things or learning, the newer thing that's coming out, what are your thoughts around AI and how does it apply to your job?
So AI applies to my job, both of my jobs, in a couple of ways. For USA Today, if there's a video we need to produce and there are just no assets, nothing to write, no anything like that, the way I go about producing it now is I we have this software called Watch It, which allows us to produce videos. We take a link to a story that I want to produce a video for, and we drop it into Watch It, and Watch It will spit out a script for us to will spit out the text for us to put on the screen of the video, or spit out a voiceover script for us, and they'll give us all the assets for it. And then we kind of go in and edit it and make it and spruce it up to make sure it works. With my podcast, funny enough, the way we do AI is we uh I have a software called Restream, and there's this AI software that after our hour and a half long podcast, it just cuts 5 to 7 videos of the flashiest videos possible. And I go in, I make sure they're kind of accurate. I make sure they kind of flow well, that they cover what I'm trying to cover. And after I've done that, I can send those out to all of our different social platforms on which I know will do well here or there. There are a there are better methods than what I do of relying on AI. I'm a little bit and this isn't the best trait of mine, but I'm a little bit of a micromanager to a certain degree. So I'm never going to be one that fully relies on it because there's things I want to do. I haven't fully delved into AI for just fully editing a long form video yet. That's something I want to work on this year. But for right now, those are the two main ways I do it.
Interesting. So it is something that you do kind of like use, but you're not fully using it to create the video experiences.
I'm not. Yeah.
Being a video programmer, and it sounds like you have a substantial background in writing and news reporting, what other video programmer jobs would be out there that aren't in the like news world? Are there any that you've thought about going down a different path, staying in video programming, but a different career hub?
Yeah, I mean, largely, I mean, many communications positions will involve video programmers. I mean, businesses all the time want they they use their social media to generate traffic and things like that, and they'll want more of a promotional video for them, and then you'll determine where to send it out, things like that. I mean, just think anything from like individual individual business owners looking for clients. They might shoot a video that they want to go to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and you can kind of determine what's the best look for each video, where each one should go to promote things. So there's a lot of different avenues. Nonprofits love this too. They want to showcase things they're doing, and they might could use a video programmer to put things on their website plus all of their social accounts. So yeah, the video programmer can be a lot of different things for a lot of different places, and have a lot of different meanings to it as well.
And for your track personally, do you see yourself staying with USA Today and staying within the news reporting world, or do you have another plan as you grow into this career?
As of right now, I see myself in the news reporting or content creation world. If one of them, if I really, grew in one of them to the point where I was making what I would love to make, I'll just be honest with you guys, I would definitely cut the other one out. But I see myself in this field pretty much for the rest of my life. But not specifically doing what I'm doing right now, I guess, if that makes sense. Like
And when you
maybe,
say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I would ideally I'd want to exclusively work in one in the future.
When you say content creation, are you referring to podcast?
The podcast, yeah. So with the podcast, I do the podcast. I do long form videos for our YouTube channel. I cut short and condensed versions of the podcast to put on YouTube so people can see those to help grow our subscribers. So yeah, all of those things basically.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to pose the last question before we open it up to the chat. Any advice for high school students if they want to get started on this career path? What volunteer opportunities or extracurricular activities could they get involved in? And what classes do you recommend that they start looking at in high school or potentially college?
Yeah, I would always encourage with high school and college creative writing. Just from the basis, creative writing classes are huge. It's very important to understand the art of writing and the art of video editing. So I would try to get in those as early as possible. I would say in college, journalism by itself, which I did, is fine. It'll put you on the track to do what you want to do. But I would really encourage as many English classes and even speech classes as possible. It is underrated how valuable it is to know the language and know how people perceive the way things are presented to them. And so English, just basic English classes and advancing in that can be very helpful. Um, as far as beyond that, internships that you can do as many of them as possible. With outlets, find news, find if there's a high school newspaper that you guys are part of, that's with your school, try to write for that. If there's like a community one, and even in high school, you could there are look at their high school programs that help high school kids get some journalistic experience and things like that. I would really encourage going the journalism route to a certain degree, with video and writing, because it just really helps you build a profile that way. And there's not a magic formula on which way to go with that, but just getting the experience will help a lot. And when you get to college, try to work for your college TV station, try to work for your college newspaper. If there's a college YouTube channel, whatever. And if there's a high school one, try to work on those too. You know, things like working on a high school yearbook can help you develop some of these skills, and then get involved in internships pre and post when you start college. Can be very important. Writing for your college newspaper, working for your college TV station or YouTube channel, all of those things, working for your college social media platforms when you're there, all of those things could be very helpful to develop skills um, to get involved in the field I'm in. You could get involved with producing videos for the football program, or if you like writing, see if there's a newspaper you could get involved with writing about the football team, things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues depending on where you are that you can take. I got really lucky because at the time Memphis had a citywide high school newspaper that I got to be involved in. But there are, so check what avenues are available for you if you want to get into writing or video editing, particularly when it involves football. Because yeah, that was my first love too. Pay attention to what you're consuming would be my biggest stat. As far as like basic skills, little things like you know, you never want to have two scenes, two shots of the same scene back to back from from a similar angle. You know, you always want to make sure you have a dissolve or something like that if you do that. That's a big one. In terms of structuring videos, it really depends on how you go about it, but you can do it in a lot of ways. And I would say like if you're doing a long form historical video, kind of, or a long form like video in general, kind of think about kind of lead with the stuff that you think is the most interesting and then end with the stuff you think is the second most interesting. So if there's if there's a part of the video you want to do that's kind of boring, that you know will be boring, just put that kind of in the middle. That's how I structure long form videos with editing and things like that. Get yourself familiar with different editing software. I use Premiere. I'm pretty sure Premiere won't be in use in 5 years because guys, I started this in 2010 and I've gone through 4 different editing softwares since then, and they always change. So get yourself familiar with as many editing softwares as possible too.